you guys, welcome back to our channel and welcome back to our podcast. It has been a long time since we've done one of these, and I think it'll be explained more with the topic that we're actually talking about. But before we get there, we are Not Broads, and as We Are Not Broads, it is our goal to positively influence the Zimbabwean youth to move together to create a safer environment for victims of gender discrimination and gender-based violence. So if you're new here, that's what we do. And you should definitely check out our social medias. We have Instagram, Twitter, WordPress, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
A blog. That's a better way of saying it. Facebook, we have a YouTube channel, and we have a podcast on Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So
all the podcast streaming platforms.
All of them,
yeah.
honestly. So the topic that we're talking about today, which also kind of explains why we've been away for a while, is activism fatigue. We've been off Instagram. We haven't been posting as much on any platform really for 2-3 months, and that was because we were all, as a collective, we were experiencing activism fatigue, which is not actually talked about. It's not, so I feel like this is like a good thing so people know that it's actually a thing and that it's normal.
Yeah, I mean, basically we are tired all the time. And because it's activism, it's a bit difficult to just leave it and be like, you know what, I don't want any more. I'm tired and I need to rest. Because I mean, the problems will still be there whether you're tired or you're not tired. So there's a certain guilt that comes with not wanting to see or hear about things that are going on, especially when you've been so involved trying to create a better, environment for people who face these problems. So being tired and not being able to rest is a thing. It's really, really, really hard.
Yeah. I guess the best way to describe it is that I saw on the internet that it's a sister to burnout. So if anyone's experienced burnout from school, it's practically that, except it's now activism, and it's even more tiresome than I would say it's even worse than regular burnout from school and stuff, because activism is tied to your identity. Well, for me it is. It's tied to my identity. It's tied to the injustice that we constantly face around the world every single day. And so that's kind of why it makes it so different from regular burnout. I think that's my best way of describing it. I don't know if anyone else has something to say or something to add.
It's I think the way that it becomes different from regular burnout in some cases is as an activist, you usually do it, I guess, kind of in a position of, in a position of privilege, exactly. For us, at least, in terms of the way that we experience life compared to other women, even in the city, it's very different. And I think part of what makes it so difficult is the guilt of wanting to take a break, because we have the option to, and that's their reality all the time.
They just do not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
so it's hard, but sorry.
That's okay. It's hard. You're right. It's just hard.
I'm really gonna the guilt part is very true, because sometimes it's also the fact that I don't know, but you feel if you don't do it, then who's gonna do it? You kind of feel you're alone in your efforts, and it's often putting pressure on ourselves. If we don't show up, who's gonna show up for it? If that makes sense. So that fear of knowing that if I don't do it, then who else does? Then cause us to have activism fatigue.
Yeah, I think I would relate to that. And I think also the thing with that, what Nicole was saying about if I don't do it, who else is going to do it? It's not just in a public space, even within ourselves as a group. Sometimes we are not broads work, and it's just there. It's sitting there. It's been sitting there. It's been there. And then you're okay, someone needs to do it. Let's go. And then you pick yourself up and you're okay, okay, let me start thinking, okay, relationships, child marriages, all of this, when men get abused. And then you're like, you know what? This is hard and I'm tired. But because it needs to be done, someone's going to have to do it. I'm going to do it. And because you don't get the break of like, you tell yourself to rest, you actually can't because the work keeps piling up and piling up and piling up. So I think when we took this break, I think we were kind of at a point where I think we actually took this break. It was kind of just like a general consensus that, okay, nothing is supposed to be happening right now. We took this break and we didn't even finish anything before we took it. Everyone was just like, okay, whatever we're doing,
done.
It's going to have to wait. Yeah. And we're just going to have to chill.
Straight.
That's pretty much it. Because if we didn't just take the break, we were not going to. Like, all of us are very, how would I put this? All of us are people who really, really want to do it, but then also will feel guilty if we don't do it. So no one was going to say, guys, I think we need to take a break. We all were just, sort of struggling through until we struggled and couldn't struggle anymore. And then we were like, okay, fine. And we literally had to force ourselves out of the break anyway, which is another thing.
Like, it's actually crazy because like we pushed our bodies to limits of like self-imposed responsibility. Like we were like, we have to continuously go because we were known as the girls that just talked about women's rights, the girls that were feminists, the girls that were talking about rape culture. We were known, and I mean we still are, but we just pushed ourselves because we had that self-imposed responsibility, and it was hard. And I think that's one of my experiences I was actually going to talk about. It's like it came to a point, it was like I think we can talk about our experiences, right? I think we were going to. Okay. I don't know if anyone else has something to say before I move on to this point. No?
That's
no,
cool.
you can't say. Go ahead.
Like, okay, it's like for me, it was like when we started WANB, we were so passionate about all of this stuff, like rape culture, about women being abused and all that, and like how high school culture was affecting all of it. And it got to the point where I just didn't have the passion for it anymore because I was so like tired of hearing it. And I think it's because I became so emotionally involved that it was draining emotionally, mentally, physically. And it put me off. I couldn't look at other pages. I couldn't look at other posts. And it was like, I just didn't even want to hear the conversation anymore because I was so annoyed. And it almost felt, because there were times where we'd be pushed over, and there's times where like people would like single us out. And that's an experience I think we had, funny enough. Well, I know Rachenda was there with me when this happened, but like we were in like a group with like there's a whole group of us, and then they were like guys then, and the one guy looked at me and was like, you need to explain what WANB is about. We're there to have fun. We're there to have fun.
Exactly. Like, why is my personal life being affected by that thing?
Yeah. And now you want to bring this up. And I mean, I guess there's times where you can bring it up, but at that point we were like, it was such a conversation that we were taking a break from it as a friend group, and then for it to like work to now come back into the space, we were like, really?
Mm-hmm. And it even took us a while to find the words to be like, okay, so with We Are Not Broads, we do this and this and this. It took us a while. Because I think we'd also just distanced ourselves from explaining stuff to people.
Mm-hmm.
Like me, personally, I don't explain things to people anymore. I'm not going to lie. I'm tired of that. Mm-hmm. Now, if I'm doing We're Not Broads work, I'm just doing We're Not Broads work. And I'm doing what I want in We're Not Broads. I'm tired of being like, answering, why do you do this questions? Or what if this happens questions? Oh, when are you going to stop questions? Oh, what happens when you go to uni questions? I don't know. Okay. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. I'm just wanting to do what I want to do without all the pressure of being an influencer or, having this identity of activist. Because I mean, yes, okay, fine, I'm an activist, but this is like my life, you guys. Like, we started this because this is our life. So when we started We're Not Broads, it's not like we're just like, let's be superheroes and save everyone else, even though we don't have these problems. The problems affect us too. So when we're tired and we're wanting a break from it, it's not because we just feel like we've done our part. It's just because even looking at the things, looking at child marriage, looking at sexual assault, looking at rape, it does also emotionally impact us because it could happen to us at any point in time. Luckily, we're now past the age of, child sexual abuse, but we're now in a stage where we're going to university. There is spiking, there's, date rape, all of that stuff. So being unable to look at things that affect you on a daily basis or could affect you on a daily basis is actually really hard, and it's emotionally taxing. So sometimes I feel like just saying, you know what, you're asking me this question, but you had a choice to go to the page and look. And I swear you would have found the answer. I promise you would have found the answer. But because, we aren't horrible people, we do answer the questions, but it's hard. It's just hard.
Yeah.
I think for me, like, the thing is, in the beginning, if someone had asked me, explain what WANB is, explain what your role is, explain, like, what you get from it, what you put into it, like any question regarding WANB and like anything regarding activism, I honestly could have spoken for hours. Like, I could have gone on and on and on.
Exactly.
It's just, I don't want to anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's just been so long. And like, it's like every time we start to slow down, instead of saying, guys, let's take a break, it's always, let's recalibrate, let's see what we can change, how we can do things differently. It's never like, guys, maybe we just need a break, And so I feel like that's also kind of affected us, the way we're like, we must keep pushing. If this push isn't working, we'll find a different way to push. And if all the pushes aren't working, we'll pull. And so I feel like that's a thing. And like, it's just kind of how it affects us, because now we're just not as passionate as we used to be. And that's just how burnout is. Like, you lose your passion, you use your willingness to like explain things, to have discussions about things, to like even spend any energy on them. And it's even like, whenever, like, I took a break for like a couple of months, but when I took a break, it was to focus on something else that was like really strenuous for me. So there were never really any breaks. And so it takes and takes from you. And if you're not feeding back into yourself, you won't be able to give anymore. And I think that's the issue that's the issue that we are suffering from.
Yeah. Even like, I think we had a little mini burnout end of exams last year, like a tiny one, and we thought it was okay. Maybe we're tired from exams because, we just finished exams. But the truth is, we were probably just tired from doing WANB work, because I don't know who we thought we were, being high school students who do activism, but it was hard doing A-level and being an activist, literally having to write, post, edit everything while doing exams. And then we never really got the chance to take that proper break from, okay, we finished high school, let's recalibrate personally without involving WANB. Okay, we've moved on from A break. We never rested after A break. And we just moved on to the next thing, which was, I think that was when we were doing whataboutism. And then we got jobs and we were like, you know what? It's just going to have to work. Let's all just, we're just going to have to soldier on. And we never really actually took the time to be like, okay, it's not change as such that needs to happen. It's rest. Because we changed a bunch of stuff. We did a lot of changing and switching and everything, but it's probably rest that needed to happen and not so much change, because we were fine. We just need rest.
Yeah. And I think even the way that we rest, like, I'm not sure if it's really because surely there's some secret out in the universe, because at some point, even like the way that we were running our operations, like, it's not like we were working 24/7, and it's not like we were working for like the entirety of our working hours. Like, it's like you have the time and you can sit down, but like, to regain the energy to want to do everything again, it's impossible. It feels impossible, at least. So I think we also just didn't have a clear enough understanding. I still don't personally, of like how to actually rest and re-energize and fight the good fight again.
Yeah.
Because like,
I feel like I'm still in it. Like, even though we had our breaks, I'm
Agree.
still going. Like, I haven't, like, even if I'm like on break, I'm like, oh, I still need to do this. I'm gonna need to do this when I'm back. So it's like I might be like procrastinating in the time or like postponing things, but they're still there. Like, I cannot go a day without thinking, what have I not done? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I need this. I need to do that. Should I message now or should I just wait? You know, everyone's resting, so it's like literally still there. I don't know if, because I think I forgot now. Oh yes, connecting to what Kira is saying about how like once you start doing the activism work, like it's in you. Like,
You can't
yes,
stop.
we were like independent, literally, you can't stop. Like, as independent activists, yes, you know things and stuff, but like when you're now a part of an organization, you even become more socially aware of things. I mean, you watch what you say, you don't find certain things funny because as as you're like educating people, you're also growing and learning from that as well. So like, even if I'm not doing work, I will be on site, I will be learning new things, I will be finding out more information. So it's like,
Yeah.
I never really stop because I'm like, I still need to be up to date. Or we might be not posting, but I could see something on like UN Women, for example, then I start looking into that and stuff. So it's one of those things where you don't stop. Like, once you're in it, you're
It's
there. And
tired.
it's not like a cow. It's not a bad thing. Like, it's not a bad thing,
Mm-mm.
but it can take a toll on you because there'll be a lot of things. Like, I always read articles now, and sometimes it's very triggering. Like, right now we're reading right now, like what's happening in our country about the child marriages in Burundi. Like, I keep seeing more things and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a topic as well. It's been so like heart, what's it, the disheartening, and it's been so like it's making my heart heavy, you know. And I mean that's it's
And I
such,
think that's like it's help. Well, it's not helping us, but it's helping us want to help other people again.
yeah.
Because we when we started out, we literally just spoke about topics that were really close to our hearts and really close to home.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things, like immediately all of us were like, okay, we need to talk about child marriages because it's something that's really, really affecting us. But when we felt obligated to create content, we just, pick a topic and be like, okay, this one, let's talk about this one now. But right now, this is something that we really feel like needs to be discussed, and it's helping us gain that energy to talk about it. But when we were just, I mean, all the topics are important, yes, but not all of the topics are really close to us as individuals.
They weren't topics we were passionate about, you know.
Yeah.
And like that's I was like about to bring that up, and it's like that's how we started to overcome activism fatigue. Or like we said, we're not fully overcome with it, but like it's helping us, as Regina was saying. And it's because we had to refine that passion for things. And that's the important thing. You have to refine the passion for it, because once it bores you and you realize, like, I'm no longer present in those conversations, like what the hell's going on with me, you know. It's like you have to refine yourself in that sense. You have to refine your passion for it, and that just comes with, I don't know, for me it was like I had to really detach myself emotionally. Like I just was like, I don't want to read about anything for like 2 weeks. I can't. I will avoid it. And then it came back in a way. The fire is like starting to light up again in me, you know. And there's like small things that I'll read about, small things I'll talk about, and then it's like, okay, yeah, I actually am passionate about this stuff. And so like one of that is like just refining yourself and like finding your passion again. That's one of the best ways to overcome activism fatigue. I don't know if you guys have other things.
I think also just like the growth. I think there's another thing that we faced this year is like literal growing pains, because again, a lot of We Are Not Broads has to do with how we identified ourselves in high school. So being out of high school and figuring yourself out, figuring who you are out, hanging out with new people, like when we were in that group, like Kira said, and we had to now start explaining things to people. That's also really hard, because how I see us, even as a friend group now versus how we were back then, is so different. I mean, we're not completely different people or anything, but we're so different in the way we approach things now, even in the way we discuss things, the way we fight is different now. So we've calmed down a lot. We've calmed down.
Like our high school personas are so different than the personas we have now. And that's what 8 months of leaving high school, that it's changed a lot. And like, you've had to learn how to grow. Those growing pains, things can't change. You have to adapt things as you change, you know? And it's crazy to think that we're like so different.
So growing pains, so going through that, right? Figuring yourself out, and also wanting to keep this thing that you started when you were little. Okay, we were not that little, but we were little.
We were little. Okay? We were little.
Mindset wise, right?
Yeah.
It's very tricky to keep identifying yourself with it, which is why like we've made a few changes in the past, in the last few months, obviously. And one of the things I think we're struggling with right now, which is also part of activism fatigue, I would say, is us like letting people help us.
Yeah.
Because we added people to We Are Not Broads, very special people.
Yes.
But it's actually hard. It's not as easy as just, hey, this is what we do here, join in. You know, letting go of little pieces of yourself that you used to, you know, hold so close to your heart, and letting other people into your space is really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And not feeling like anyone will really understand the whole assignment of We Are Not Broads, the whole idea behind We Are Not Broads. And it's really, what would I say it is? It's like letting your small child crawl for the first time. And you're like, okay, but what if you fall? And then, but you have to let it go because you need help. You need help. One of the things you need to do, even like if other people are struggling with activism fatigue, is don't hesitate to ask for help because you need it. There's no way you can survive and just keep going if you don't at least ask for help sometimes. Because even with us, I mean, yes, we're together, but some of the work, there's times when one person has done all the work. Or like Kira, all the video editing, she's done it. There's times I've done writing assignments on my own. And it's not because anyone else is incompetent. It's just because asking for help is hard. It's hard. But then you get more tired because you don't ask for help.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing, is just have conversations with people. Mm-hmm. You know, have conversations about it. Find people you can relate to. Find people you can talk to about it. And we're lucky we have each other. But even in that sense, like there's times we just don't always talk to each other about it. We'll go to other people who we know. Okay, let me get a new, refreshed opinion on something. You know, like it's like. But also in that sense, it's like talk about it with someone, but also don't make it the only thing you talk about, because then you'll be sick of each other. Like I'm pretty sure there was a point where we were all sick of each other, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I love you guys, but go away.
Yeah.
And I think another thing. I'm sorry, I was going to move on to another point, so go ahead.
Oh, I think it's good for us to actually be like, I'm done. Well, not done, but like, you know, I'm just not going. Because a lot of the times dealing with having like activism fatigue, and most people have generally expressed how like sometimes not identifying it or not having a name for it. Like you can be going through this, like genuinely, even last year I would be going through this, but I didn't have a name for it. Literally, I didn't have a name for what I was going through. This like run down feeling can lead you to like not identifying it will definitely lead you to being burnt out and everything, because like it's one of those, okay, I'm feeling this way, I don't know why, but I have to keep going. And sometimes that pushing yourself to work harder will make your passion for activism die.
Yes, I forgot for a split second. Like, I guess like piggybacking.
What did you guys say in literature?
Piggybacking
just to piggyback on words.
yeah, what Nicole said. That's basically like just an issue of boundaries. And it's like you kind of have to set boundaries with yourself, even if you're not comfortable with it, just to be like, this is what you're capable of doing. And I understand that you may feel like you need to do everything because you feel like you know what you're doing, you'll do it right, you might as well, you don't need help. But like you actually need to set boundaries with yourself. Otherwise, you'll just continue to overexert yourself. And like also make it clear to the people around you who you're working with, just so like everyone understands. Even if like sure, sometimes you can do more, sometimes you can do less. But like they also, if they have an understanding of the fact that like, you know, you've got this going on, this is like realistically what you can take on, it makes it a whole lot easier for you to avoid this situation that we're in. Just boundaries. And then another thing that I was going to mention that I don't think we really discussed is like one thing that can be really demotivating when you're doing all of this is like you're making the posts, you're having lives, you're having Twitter spaces, but like you can't actually see any tangible change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like you go on Twitter, the same people are saying the same things, the same people who motivated you to start. And so you're like, okay, it's been a year. I've been doing this for 12 months. I've been suffering for 19 years, but still nothing. And so that becomes really difficult as well, especially if it's something that you can't measure. We can't measure how misogynistic our society is and say the misogyny has decreased by 5%. We can't do that. And so, yeah, I think it becomes really draining when you're doing all of this and you just feel like nothing is happening.
Yeah. I mean, I have a quote for something like that. It's funny, when I was reading about it earlier this week, what was the quote? I'll try and link it as well. But then it was something like, your efforts aren't wasted just because the revolution hasn't arrived. It was something like that because the writer of the article, she was comparing it to like gun violence and like it was in the US, but like women having rights to have guns and stuff. And she was like, they've been fighting for this for over 100 years or so, and it only now is it picking up. So it's kind of just that example of like your efforts aren't wasted just because the revolution hasn't arrived. So that's a good way to try and remember things.
I think something that did make my heart a little bit lighter about the whole thing is when we were like looking for like recruiting for WANB for new people. And I initially didn't think people really wanted to anything to do with WANB or even wanted to join. So I was expecting maybe, 4 or 5 applications. And then seeing how many people were really actually interested in helping out and, all the positive things that they had to say about what we do and how we do it. I was really like, okay, so someone does hear us. We're not crazy.
Yeah.
Someone does hear us. Just like what we were talking about in the, I think it must have been the second or the first episode, one of those, the first podcast episode, we were talking about getting positive feedback helps a lot. It helps a lot. I think even when we did our first Twitter space and everyone was like, oh, we're so proud of you. You need to keep going. All of that. That was really nice because you really feel like someone hears you. At least someone is listening.
There are people that are watching. There are people that are listening and following, which is always lovely to hear.
It gives you a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
So I think another thing is just sometimes, a loss of hope, especially when really sad things like the GBV crisis in South Africa and the child marriages crisis here, when really sad things like that happen and you lose hope, someone telling you to pick yourself up and telling you you're doing a good job also helps with regaining the strength to continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. So we pretty much talked about everything.
Yes, well, we included it.
Did we talk about how to help yourself overcome?
Yeah.
Setting boundaries.
Yeah, setting boundaries.
Isn't that
setting
basically
boundaries, resting, like
asking for help.
Yeah. I think it's also like essential to have people you can let your armor down with. Like, like kuraf stuff. Like I'm just not feeling it.
Yeah.
And you should also and those same people shouldn't be like just people you're just telling it's rough. Like you should also be able to celebrate the amazing moments, like I don't know, someone acknowledging your post or someone actually coming to you. Like for me, I get so excited when people, like I understand how you guys saying that like it gets very annoying, like just go read and stuff. Like, but me, I get so excited. I do this and you're coming to me to ask. Like, come on. Grab a paper, let me teach you. Like, I get so excited, especially if it's different people. I mean, if it's the same person,
Yeah.
Are you really asking or do you just want to challenge me?
Yeah, like what's the point? What's the point?
But if it's like different people and they're like, yeah, I'm like, come, my child, let me tell you. But yeah, like journaling is very good as well. So always in that, writing about your good days and your bad days, because it's not always bad. Like you are doing a good thing. You are doing the right thing. If you like, yes, you may feel triggered sometimes, but you are on the right path.
Yeah.
And it's also really good for like, remembering why you started in the first place, because that helps you keep going. And just like small victories as well. Because like personally, I considered a victory if someone in our comments was like, oh, I didn't know that before, but I know that now. Thank you. Like it's something. It's not nothing.
Something.
I really appreciate that. And like it's really easy to forget all of that when you go back to the TL and we are having the same conversations. I really love 18-year-old girls. They're ripe for, and they're not ruined. You forget when you're reading that stuff, hey?
Yeah.
So yeah, journaling is great.
It's very much.
I don't do it, but it's great.
Yeah.
Same. For those of you who do it.
I mean, I know there were some people.
Okay, I journal.
Okay.
It works.
I know there's some people that write letters to themselves. I do that. So write letters to yourself, and then in a couple of months read it. Write another one. Keep going like that. It's also I know one of my friends. She has her own podcast, so she just records herself on voice memos, and then like, so that's a good way. So like, because times when you look back on those and you be like, oh yeah, by the way, So like, have your own little podcast. No one needs to know about it, but just have your own little podcast. So it's always ways.
Also, I can't emphasize this enough. But like what Nicole was saying, have a friend. Like I have a friend who tells me when I'm going off balance. Like someone who's just there to tell you, okay, listen, I know you want to do this, but don't do that. Or I know you want to do this, but it's not the right thing for you right now. You need to have friends.
Yeah.
I mean, the one challenge we've had here is we are friends. So the people you want to talk about are here. Literally. So have friends that also don't do what you do.
Yeah.
Have friends that have no clue what you're doing here. Well, obviously, if your friends don't have a clue what you're doing here, that's the problem. But what I mean is, have friends who understand you well enough to pull you out when you're struggling.
Yeah.
So that you don't just fall.
Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening wherever you're listening. Don't forget to check out our page. Don't forget to check out our socials. Everything will be linked in the bio. And it'll also be linked on screen. Well, written on screen. Can't even be linked. But you know the vibes. Subscribe to our podcast and our YouTube channel. And we will see you guys next time. And also, guys, just sneak peek, but subscribe because we have some really exciting content coming with the new members of WANB Socials.
Yay!
New members. I wonder who they are.
I wonder.